Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Diaspora of Blackness, a celebration of Blackness around the world. We are about to start our In Conversation with Jonathan McCrory. He is the artistic director of the National Black Theater. He is a two-time Obie Award winner. And so, without further ado, please welcome Jonathan.
Hello, hi.
Hi. Welcome. Thank you so much for joining us today. It is such an honor.
Oh, well,
How
no,
are you?
it's a really appreciate you having me be a part of this conversation. So thank you so much.
Absolutely. How are you doing first and foremost?
That's a beautifully lotus flower as I have behind me conversation. It blossoms, has different petals to it. Depending on where I'm at and how I'm doing. But I can definitely say that like in this moment in my body right here, right now, I'm feeling a sense of gratitude. A sense of rejuvenation after having a really, I don't know about everyone else, but last week was a little bit of a whirlwind. And a sense of accomplishment, right? There's a sense of grounded accomplishment. I think that I try to add that to every day. I know I elongating the whole question, but the sense of grounded accomplishment, some of the fact that I get to exist in another day, right? There's so many of us who are not being able to exist in another day, and how do I actually appreciate and deepen and respect that gift, that possibility?
That's a beautiful thing. I mean, it's just so important that we even acknowledge it, like you said, because I think before, the pandemic, we were just kind of like, whatever, like I'm just trying to hustle. And now it's like, no, you have to take a second and really appreciate that you're here and get to wake up for another day and just like have your well-being.
And also just to like really talk about it, which is really quite profound, is that like that was the our hustle was part of living our best life, right? We would say, I'm hustling, I'm living my best life. Like I'm on the grind, I'm living my best life. I'm navigating, I'm living my best life. And to be very honest, like that modality, that psychic space was also a detriment. We were slowly but surely killing the very force of who we are by saying that, right? Now in hindsight, now with everything kind of being on pause, now with some people not being able to have a hug or be able to be with their loved ones, family structure is now kind of crazy. There's that little Anna. I was with someone yesterday, and they brought up this really powerful sensibility of how we're training ourselves right now. How in with the word social distancing, and how in like in Mexico it just says healthy distance, right? They're
Oh.
using the word healthy distance, not social distance. And so when we think about, because they understand the need and necessity of sociability. And so like when we talk about how am I doing, right? How am I living? How am I adapting to this kind of rhetoric that is forcing me to not really honor the fact that I'm a social being, and not understanding that I want health, that the real intent of the social distancing is for better health, not necessarily for me to deny myself the capacity to be social.
Absolutely. Okay, Jonathan, we're out here today. Well, I'm going to start with some of our questions, or else we'll be on tangents for the entire time.
Yes, I know. No. You are the driver of this. I am in the passenger seat enjoying the view, okay?
No, we're driving this vehicle together. All right, so let's start off with, how did you get your start in this industry, and how did you get where you are today? Because you have quite the career.
I appreciate that. I mean, like how did I get here? I said yes to my curiosity, and I allowed my curiosity to generate multiple interactions that built what we can see as a life, as a career, right? I let my curiosity define the limits of my imagination, not the prescription of human. Growing up, I grew up being diagnosed with dyslexia, ADD, and there was something else that was happening. I can't remember the name. I never have. I should probably ask my mom one day, what were all the things that they diagnosed me with, right? But that diagnosis I only say that because my curiosity worked against that diagnosis. That diagnosis said, and my parents, who I must give credence to and say thank you for like not living inside that prescription. That prescription basically said that I was that my parents should, I expect for me not be able to rise to the occasion of many of my peers. That like I would intellectually always be behind and not being able to excel or be able to thrive. And in my memory, my body's memory, I remember my dad basically making declaration, my son will not be that, right? That he thought that he had what they prescribed me as, and he was successful, I could be successful, and we're just going to have to hold me potentially with more grace in order for me to excel. And like, I grew up in a family that could do that, right? I grew up in a family that could hold me with more grace, so I could excel. And that diagnosis showed its ugly head, kind of getting, and this is where it becomes the ignition space for what the career that we see, or the life that I've been able to cultivate, and the relationships I've been able to build. And going from middle school to high school, everyone was going. I went to a private middle school. Everyone was going to private high school. They were just getting in left and right. It was an on and popping. Like, hey, I'm going. Hey. Me, no one wanted to accept me. I wouldn't get accepted. Rejection after rejection after rejection after rejection. No places were allowing for me to say, hey, I'm worthy. Hey, I had a humble pride. A notice that was placed on my life at a young age felt like it was now starting to irk its ugly head, and I was about to be left out. To be put back into a system, right? In that moment, in that moment, DC public schools, the public school that I would have had to gone to was a big school. I would have been one out of like, I think 300 students in my year alone. We're not talking about like the whole school. In my year alone, and me being a number would mean that I'm a part of a factory because of the special needs that I need. Special needs are not special needs that where the transformation comes out of. I just want to say the transformation of it comes is that someone said, "Oh, he does plays, he does musicals. Why don't you have him apply for the arts high school?" It's a curated group. He can get specialized attention if he needs to, but then he'll also be able to be creative, right? So then I just applied for Duke Ellington School of the Arts, and I was the last male vocalist to be accepted into that program. And then they said they were going to start a musical theater program my year. And so then I auditioned for that, and I got into the musical theater. So it was just curious. I was just like, oh, okay. And it was also rejection. The mixture of rejection and curiosity, and it starts all the way down to middle school. It starts all the way when I got the prescription around when they actually said what was going on in my body. It starts at those places that you start to see a career and a life that we're now talking about, right? It's because of my remembering of that, and it's also because of my decision to take a different path and to choose to kind of take the lemonade of those lemons, that we start to generate a kind of life that I love, a kind of life where I'm still learning what love looks like, a kind of life where I'm actually still able to help feed and give back to my community.
Okay, that's amazing, because the thing about rejection also is that it can go one of two ways. It's either going to fuel you, like you were saying, or it's going to completely stop you in your tracks. And the beauty of your curiosity too reminds me so much of Nina Simone, because it is just it seems like your life has kind of taken this path where it was like, well, this one thing happened, and then because of that thing, then this other thing happened, and you can never predict it or plan it, but then it's like all of a sudden you have this amazing career that, if all the schools who rejected you however long ago could see you now, they would be like, wow, we made a huge mistake. But
go ahead.
Well, I said, but in the long run, it was the right decision, and you can never see it at the beginning when you're receiving the rejection. But it's like, no, everything has a purpose. It's all for a reason.
And I will have to say, because I went to that, if I had gone those other paths, I might be an architect right now, or an engineer, or something else. Because I took those other paths, I snowballed into creative ideation that allowed for me to expand myself, and also allowed for me to begin to start to understand how to heal the spaces that the disability was robbing me of, or was making me feel inadequate inside of, or was not allowing me to fully embody myself inside of. Right, I started to understand how to love those spaces, not to demonize those spaces, and I also got to figure out what does wholeness look like from my vantage point, not from the kind of poster child spaces that an ableist society kind of places on us, right? I don't perceive as a disabled human, right? But there is a disability that's invisible, that's a part of my psyche, that actually interacts and interrupts that ableist kind of zeitgeist. They think that I can be able to test well. They think that I'll be able to read everything that comes out. They think that, but there is a truth that I live with, and it's like coming up against that. But then how do you find your wholeness inside of that, right? I think that's a question that we all have to have a conversation about, ultimately,
Yeah.
in life.
Okay. Yeah, absolutely. So kind of feeding off of that, you refer to yourself as a creative doula, which
Yes.
I absolutely love. Because I mean, a doula is someone that assists in the birthing process of something. So you as a creative birther, and then you're talking about feeding this and like, breaking away from these ableist ideologies. So what exactly does that mean? Minus my interpretation that I just gave. And
I
then
love your
how
interpretation. I love your interpretation.
Thank you. And then how did you come up with that term for yourself?
Wow, how did I come up with that term for myself? That's a great question. So the term creative doula helps me as a cis male masculine body to affirm the feminine energy that actually runs through me. If my pronouns are he, him, but my spirit is a she. Not but and my spirit is a she, right? Not to cancel my he, him, but to also say that I understand the duplicity and also what's happening inside my body. When I had to honor the she energy that runs my spirit, when I had to honor the space in which that magnetic energy actually consumes, I also had to start to understand that, like, when I profess this and I profess this consistently, that when people are interacting with me and they fall and they like say like feel so warm or for loving, or they feel the grace of who I am, that's my she energy. That I feel like that's my she energy coming to really just create a profound opportunity for me to know when to silence, know when to be proactively active, know when to actually hold, or how to create, from a matriarchal space instead of a patriarchal space. And when I started to think about that, that is not living inside of the American theater construct of artistic director. And that energy is more conducive to that of a person who is assisting in the manifestation of work, the manifestation of life, the manifestation of being. And I started to really, and I really do hold the space of seeing myself more as a dramaturg than artistic director. And then when I started thinking about what's the amalgamation of the two, right? What's the amalgamation that allows for me, not just solely because dramaturg felt too limiting at the same tip, the kind of expansiveness of how I operate. I create budgets, I create data, but I also help with all of that to help with the birthing, right? I am part of that birthing algorithm, that birthing canal. And I am the person just giving guidance, right? Like if the playwright says, I want to go to the moon, I say, okay, how do we draft that moon? What does that moon actually mean? How does that actually move forward? Okay, director, how do we, okay. And at some point we get to a place of culmination where we then share. And then it's no longer in our control. It's in the will of the community. So then I started to really think of doula. And when I first said it, I was like, creative doula. And if I remember correctly, when I first said it, I think I shared it with Sade Lithcott, who's the CEO of BT. And it was like, I become a wacky ideas. Like things just come out, and I'd be like, what about this? And I have a great friend, comrade, co-worker, leader, co-leader, like just it's a blessing to have Sade in my life in such a way. She's the CEO of National Black Theater. And what I have to say is that it really is stemming from a way in which that I am building off of the pedagogy of Dr. Barbara Antier of creating alternative spaces for Black bodies to live and breathe. And that means that we and National Black Theater has always worked against the grain of a traditional normative structure. So then why would I then prescribe myself solely to that? And at one point, I even proposed my title should not be artistic director; it should be creative doula. That is like it created some space of being like, I don't really know what that means. You know what I mean? Like if we're trying to, if the desire is to create space for the organization to have some kind of normal facing entryway in, that using some traditional like you always have to talk about the bridges, right? So I use the word artistic director, but then I introduce myself as creative doula. So that the bridge is that you have a known sense, which is artistic director. However, I get to own the claiming of myself by saying creative doula. So hopefully that answers your question.
Yeah, I mean, no, it does, because you're really touching on you're touching on so many things that you've already referenced back to, which is your curiosity. Because I feel like as a creative doula, you have to be curious. And then also like this, the constant of like asking questions, the consistency of like birthing ideas, whether they can even actually be possible or not,
Yeah.
and to not be held strictly to one specific title allows you to really branch out and fully express yourself. And I also like how you keep talking about the feminine with the masculine. So how you're able to kind of like, because the way you describe things, it really does sound like a maternal instinct, honestly. It's just it can't even be fully explained as to like why it happens or when it happens, but it's something that it's just like, and you do it.
Yes, 100%. 100%. It's how, yeah, exactly.
Okay, so then would you say that being an artistic director was always your goal? And I do have a little question, because you did describe the American standard of being an artistic director. So I would like you to go a little bit more in depth with that. Yeah. But was being an artistic director always your goal in life? Or did you envision yourself doing something completely different?
So, as I started off, I started off saying that if I didn't go to the arts high school, I probably would be an architect or engineer. I love to build things.
Okay.
Even now, like I have these 3D puzzles that I make on the side. Like I love constructing, and my mom thought, so my mom thought I would be like a priest or in a religious sect or something, doing something in the priesthood, preacher kind of essence, because of kind of how my spirit has always shared or been a part of sharing. And I think at some point, at many points and moments when one might think that they are making those decisions, I was in the prospect or the possibility of going that route, right? Either becoming a preacher or becoming an architect or engineer. And I think the calling of becoming an artistic director really landed in my system. Douglas, I'm about to bring up NEC and making me think of Douglas Turner Ward, who just transitioned a couple of days ago. One of the founders of NEC. I had researched and knew a lot about NEC, especially at Duke Ellington, the Negro Theater Ensemble, and in leaning into the profound legacy of that location, that site founded by these Black bodies who are making radical work for the American theater canon, and the opportunities of what they had created, and the ways in which that they had ownership, or they had spaces. They were traveling the world. They were creating dynamic legacy building work that was our birthright. That was your and I's birthright as Black artists, Black people on this planet. Like if we were in any kind of step with inside of their aspiration, we were like, children of their fruits. And like we deserve, and that means, just like with any other children, the fruits of their labor are our inheritance, right? To whatever degree we are in association with it. So it was my thought of like, when I researched NEC and I knew about NEC, that, and I also knew about the unfortunate disruption that happened at NEC and that did not allow for it to sustain itself. I was like, oh, I deserve my birthright. We deserve our birthright. We deserve a location and a site that is fully that is fully funded, that is well, like we deserve our alley. We deserve our space like an alley as Black theater artists. We deserve that in New York City, and we don't have that. We didn't have that. And I had told my, and at that moment I had not known of a National Black Theater or of Dr. Tier. And in my junior year of high school, I told the chair of my theater department. He said, "So Jonathan, what do you want to be when you grow up?" Right? And I said, I want to go to NYU and I want to study musical theater. I hadn't applied to NYU and I didn't know if I was going to go there yet, but I was like, that's where I want to go. That's happening. And in that same conversation, I said, I want to own a theater in Harlem that's dedicated to doing Black work as the artistic director. And he said, that's very particular. And I said, I don't want to get there until I'm 40, but that's what I want to do. I want to reignite my birthright. And I want to reignite the birthright for future generations. I want to run a theater in Harlem and do that work. And so when the opportunity, you didn't ask this part of the question, but when the opportunity showed up to be the artistic director of the National Black Theater, which was granted to me, or I was employed by Sade Lithcott, it was the convergence of those two conversations happening at once. It was the universe saying, you are ready to explore what that ownership of that, when you say something in the universe, what does it mean to have the universe then bend to your will? So let's see what happens. Are you going to say yes, or are you going to say no? Are you going to go left, or are you going to go right? Like, how are you going to actually tell me and affirm that you are a human of your word, that actually, if you ask for something, I provide, you will say yes? Or was that just lip service? Because the things that ran through my head are the things that might run through many people's head. At that moment, I was 25, and I was like, what the heck? I was supposed to do this when I was 40. But what the heck? I don't know how to run a fort. I don't know how to run an institution. Who am I? What? No. You don't want me. I'm 25. Like I was like, I'm 20. Like, what are you talking about? And to the vision of Sade, she was like, you have everything. You have everything that's necessary. The question is, are you ready? And on so many levels, that is the question that we always have to ask ourselves. When something presents itself to us, even the lemons of it, right? Is that when we are ready to receive it, will we accept the blessing that comes from that receiving? Will we allow ourselves to kind of look past the story of it and get to the gems that are found inside the story? Because those gems are actually the seeds and roots to provide a gateway to the ultimate path. And sometimes we get lost in such the story of it that we never, ever honor all of the gems and the seeds housed in the story. The story becomes such a penetrable shell that we never fall in love with ourselves again. We fall prey to the story. We start to demonize, we start to live in the demonized vibration of what the story actually is anchoring us to do.
Absolutely. And, also, when people are able to see you for who you are way before you can even see yourself, it's such a gift and it's such a treat. And you just have to honestly have faith that what those people are saying is true. And it can be so
100%.
difficult to
100%.
understand that. Wow, you're so profound.
Oh, I know that I hopefully I'm answering your questions. I just want to make sure I'm answering your questions.
You're going above and beyond. Don't even
Okay,
concern
so
yourself with that.
I have the so just to why you're getting the duplicity of me of being like I don't know and da, 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 da. I just talk through my body like they're just downloads that happen in my body. Like I've actually, if I've done anything well in my life, it is to be a vessel of service. So if I've done anything well, and I hope I've done this very well, is that I attune myself to be as empty as possible to allow for what source in my mind, which is any air, energy, the things around us, to channel through my body, and for me to be the lucky witnesser to allow for it to just come out, right? And that hopefully whoever is listening, whoever is around me, the vibrations that come generated from that source energy, I desire, my deepest desire, and why I meditate, why I light candles, why I sage, why I try to center myself, why I've done a lot of personal development, is so that the sound that comes out is a restorative sound that echoes a kind of a reconciliation of my own blood memory, but also could hopefully create an elixir that helps to heal and homogenize a joint elixir, right? That we can speak life into each other's lives. We also can speak life into our own ancestral blood memory. And how do we affirm that? And how do we allow for a reclamation to happen that's never going to be served by another person? There's never going to be another person willing and able to create reclamation for us, right? Like we as Black and brown bodies have been waiting for our 40 acres and a mule, right? We've been waiting for that concept to show up. However, we have also had to, and in that waiting for it, not to say it's not deserved, not to say that it should not happen, but in that waiting of it, we have figured out, we've been forged in so many ways to still be in a slave mentality. And that slave mentality, as we wait for our reclamation, for someone to see us, as you said, for someone to see us individually, collectively, whatever, our sweat equity has still built the whole economic system of this country. Our sweat equity has done that. Our cultural equity has done that. Yet we are not the owners of that cultural equity on so many different degrees. And so, that was my tangent, and I will stop.
No, well, I want to add to that because it's a sweat equity that goes even beyond just the United States. Like, even here in Ghana, we're still, even with our liberated selves and, having broken away from the slave trade and being under the control of Europe, we still feel the effects and this need, this requirement of white appreciation and white support. And when you're talking even about birthright, it's Black people don't even understand the importance of being able to see what they deserve. And we're constantly told how little we deserve and how little we need. And it's up to us, like you said, to bring that light into our bloodline and into our community because we've been denied that light for so long.
And it's really a conversation that has to be on a molecular structure of a one-on-one mentality, right? You and me have to be willing to have that conversation. If you and I are willing to have that conversation, we are then able to be culture shapers of maybe adding one additional person. And if the three of us, for the three of us, that other person, or just you and I, if it just becomes you and I, right? The two of us spend a lifetime living that way, we create generational shifts.
Yes.
But if it's just you and I, right? Because the butterfly effect.
Yes.
It's us flapping our wings, and it is a global crisis that we are now living in, right? Like race as a construct, we are living in the global crisis of that configuration. We're living in the global crisis of what it was to center capitalism and a patriarchal capitalistic system over an indigenous capitalistic system. We are living in the crisis of what it means to to not honor, to like when we talk about social distancing versus healthy distancing, we are going to be living in the reverberation of that, right? And it never and the whole power of this pandemic, if there is power to be named in this pandemic, is that it is forcing those who have breath to provide, and those who have breath that they're given, to actually have a conversation with that crisis, and to be the CEOs to generate the new economy that is not built off of or built on or returning to that old way of being, because that old way of being is so easy to do. It is the thing that we are seeing wanting to show up really quickly. However, if we've done our work, and if it's only 4 of us that make the change, that's still a change. If we've done the work, we have then right-sized what this moment was meant to do to propel us not to be repeated again. Because this will repeat itself. There will be another pandemic. And the question is, will we be ready not to respond with it with force, but to wrap it with grace and provide a salve, a healable salve? We are so used to being like patriarchal in our responses. We're so used to adding force. That's not a gendered notion, but a psychic mental notion. Like our notion of matriarchal and patriarchal have actually been robbed. And I just wonder, in this moment of this pause, how are we giving ourselves the credence to actually have that conversation?
Absolutely. And then how also do we prevent ourselves from feeding off of our trauma?
Yes.
Okay,
No,
well,
I mean, you had to ask that question. I am a champion. I love it. I have a therapist. She's amazing. We work virtually every week. If I miss a session, things start going crazy. Like, you know what I mean? I am a firm believer in the power of finding a thought partner that you are able to conceive your highest self. And
mhm.
it could be a therapist, it could be a spiritual doula, it could be it could be all these things. But I am a firm believer in crafting a physical space where you and another human who has a skill set that can give you perspective, that is not necessarily your friend, to guide you through a ideation that helps you to understand how your body, how your mind, how your heart, and ultimately how your spirit is being conjured in this moment. How is it being held in this moment? Also, how is it being disrupted in this moment?
Okay. Well, this is actually a really good segue into my next question.
You're like, girl, this is not the topic of the. What are we talking?
No, but it is. It all ties in together because, I mean, art is healing and art is the cure. But what you're saying about someone who can guide you, who's not just your friend, is so key, because a friend will lie to you out of comfort. And you don't need that when you're trying to better yourself and make everything else around you better as well.
I mean, but let's talk about a little bit more. I know you have other questions. I know you're
No,
like,
let's talk about it.
bro,
Let's talk
please,
about
please, can we go back to my regularly scheduled program? But let's just talk about it a little bit. Discomfort is the root of progress.
Yes.
If you work out to gain healthy practice in your body, and I don't mean working out to get six-pack abs, I'm not mean working out but just creating a healthy sense of body. To walk is to work out. To move your muscles is to work out. Shaking your head right now is working out. To work out is to create strain potentially of the muscle, and you do it in a healthy way. You have to tear. When's the last time you tore something and it was comfortable?
Yeah, never.
You create tears inside the muscle. You create tears inside of the very fabric of who you are in order to expand and root yourself to be able to withstand living. So then the very space that we talk about, we have to be comfortable, is the very space where our death lies.
Mm-hmm.
Because if we are not uncomfortable, and I go back and I love this, and this is why I love butterflies, this is why I love caterpillars, right? A caterpillar goes into a cocoon and does what? Transforms. We don't, when's the amount of bones that show up in a butterfly, the amount of new configuration, but the essence of the person, the essence of that individual, the essence of that caterpillar shows up in a different total metamorphosed body.
Mm-hmm.
And the question I ask anyone is that, how are you living with discomfort right now? How are you allowing for discomfort to be a part of your processing tool? How are you not running away from it, but leaning into it? How are you falling forward with grace? How are you allowing yourself to fail? How are you showing up and allowing intimate conversations? So you're not just calling people out, but you're actually calling people in, which means that you have to actually accept that you might be doing some harmful shit yourself. Sorry for cursing. That you might actually be like, I have to own the fact that I might be doing anti-Blackness work. I might not be a racist, but I could be doing anti-Blackness work. And if I'm not willing to name the ways in which I'm doing anti-Blackness, how then can I create a mechanism to help be a bridge to end racism?
Mm-hmm.
Because what will ultimately happen, and which is one of my concerns, is that we talk about it and we name it and we do it and we say, we want progress, we want progress, we want progress. But if we are not able to have the conversation of the progress that has to happen internal, we will create another kind of oppression that will just have a different name.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because it goes back to that white supremacy capitalist idea, the patriarchal capitalist ideology, because it is built on the suffering and denial of others. And
Yes.
it's like, if we want to be in a society where we can grow and
Yes.
we can do ourselves better, that means that we are going to have to get uncomfortable, and we are
Yes.
going to have to let go of things that we originally thought were things we wanted.
Yes.
Things that we were fighting to, we thought that's what we wanted, but it's the detriment to all of us.
Yes. Yes.
Absolutely. Okay, well, I have a couple questions, but
I'm
I think
here
this,
for all your questions.
well, I think I have one that goes better to what we're talking about, but I do have a question I want to ask. But so I'm going to ask, how does the National Black Theater create space for art and activism? Because we are kind of in that position right now to get into that.
Yeah, you're like, can we go to your job? Like, what do you like?
No, well, most of the questions are actually about you and not your job. So, because we want to know about you.
Well, okay. So for those folks who might not know, I work at the National Black Theater, founded in 1968 by Dr. Barbara Ann Tier. Currently run with Sade Lithcott and myself. Sade Lithcott is the CEO of MBT, and also I just want to honor the fact that she's also the daughter of Dr. Tier. So it really brings a whole legacy and kind of a real amplified sense of a self and of the institution of the community to the organization, and it's actually been an honor and a privilege to work with her and work side by side with her. So how do we bring activism into space? Activism is forged by our founder in 1968 when she said, "I choose to be in Harlem. I don't have to be in Harlem. I choose to be in Harlem. I make a choice." That's activism. Mm-hmm. Understanding one's political, economic, and social capital, and saying that my choice is to invest it in this location, that is power. And so what I ultimately am saying inside of that is that choice is the catalytic force that keeps us in the space of activism. Because every day that we open up our doors, every day that we do a program, we're choosing to invest in our community. We're choosing to make it about Black artists. We are choosing. So our activism is based in our existence. How we amplify that is icing on the cake. But first we have to honor that the very nature of our existence is an element of activism. And so I think that's how I get to the nugget of it. We do programming. There are a lot of different programs that we do. We do partnerships. There's a lot of partnerships that we do. If someone's going on our website and they were to look at Unbossed and Unbought, which is a digital series that we did, it's a clear moment of activism. However, I don't want to outshine or outcast that at our roots, because of the choice that our founder made, and the choice that we continue to make every day, we live in the space of activism.
Okay, that's beautiful. It's very, very beautiful. Well, okay, I want to know, how do you, Jonathan, approach a project, and what qualities do you look for when you create or curate?
So I will say the when I'm picking a project, I'm looking for a space. I'm looking for a project that questions my comfort.
Okay.
I'm looking for a project that doesn't amplify a pattern that I have. Like if I I'm always trying to evolve, so I'm always
Mhm.
trying to make sure the curation that I'm doing is evolving.
Do
I'm
you,
looking for
sorry,
a
do you
piece.
find yourself in patterns a lot?
Yes, I don't know a human who doesn't have patterns.
Absolutely.
And I don't know a human that doesn't. And I know a lot of humans who are not aware that they even have patterns. But the
Mhm.
more and more we're aware of it, the more and more it's out of choice versus it being something that we're automatically doing. So I try to think of like, am I only working with cis women? Am I only working with cis men? Am I only working in this kind of subject matter? Am I only working this? Okay, well, I need to break it. We need to look at. And by doing that, I grow.
Mhm.
Also, the institution stays nimble to its notion of blackness, because it should be nimble to its notion of blackness. It's called the National Black Theater. I'm looking for artists who are about a healing modality.
Okay.
Artists. If the artist is about a healing modality, then the art will be nothing but that. I would say those are things that I'm looking for.
Okay. Have you been finding a lot of artists that you, in this current climate, that you feel have that healing modality? Do you feel that um, maybe it's even, I don't know, do you see it put on more now than it being authentic? Or do you think that people have really had to kind of challenge themselves to, because I mean, this year has been a reckoning, if nothing else. So, do
What?
you,
we had 2020 in 1 week.
yes.
We had an unprecedented we had another election, essentially. We had an insurgence, which was another civic unrest that no one had ever known what was going to ever happen. You know what I mean? We had and numbers skyrocketed of a pandemic that we have been reckoning with, right? That we have been
Hmm.
living with. I Transformation is a word that is a word that is being thrown out so flippantly, I think, inside our cultural lexicon.
Hmm.
However, the roots of transformation go back to the when I talk about the butterfly, the caterpillar turning to the butterfly.
Hmm. An
The
authentic change.
and it's a natural change.
Hmm.
We don't know for sure, but I don't think the caterpillar knows what it's about to do. It follows a natural order that allows for it to go through a transmorphous change.
Hmm.
I also want to say that there's something in there that happens inside of it where the essence of someone shows up. Not the skin, not the you know what I mean? There's an essence of someone that shows up. So it's not the shell.
Yeah. It's
And
the
so
internal wholeness
the
almost.
internal wholeness. Thank you. So my question inside of this word of transformation that has been used so much is that how committed are you to actually transforming?
Hmm.
Your transformation cannot be a transactional effect. You can't pay for transformation. You can invest in the transformative action of something, but you can't pay for transformation. You can invest, you can't pay for. And that investment has to come with a commitment, a durational commitment that is actually generational. That is actually durational. Because the amount of weight that is laid on the body of the human of society right now um because of the amount of problems and the historical. We're talking about 400. Like, we don't want to talk about slavery alone. 400 years of, okay, and then that is not even when the construction of race began, right? So
Hmm.
if you want to try to rectify human, you got to clean up all of that. You got to clean up all of that. Then once you clean up all of that, then you can have a conversation about, I'm a human, you're a human, and we can start having a human conversation. It takes a profound gift of an individual in 2021 to really see someone as human, to be honest.
It's true. And to not get bogged down by our own individual traumas, and then really see people as humans fighting for the same thing. And also to avoid our willingness to be complacent, because there's so many aspects in life where we just are like, well, you know.
I mean, it goes back to the very simple nature of like, to breathe, to wake up, to acknowledge those things is to radically change what we center as gratitude, what we center as success, what we, I cringe now. I used to not cringe as much, but I cringe, and I have a button that says it. And I cringe. I'm about to show it to you. I cringe now. I don't wear this anymore because I cringe. I am Black excellence. I cringe at the word excellence.
How come?
Because excellence is rooted in supremacy.
Oh, yeah.
Excellence is saying that my existence right now is not worthy or not good enough.
Mm-hmm,
so I have to go above and beyond just breathing. I have to go above and beyond just being. When it actually goes against this idea that Black lives matter, they simply just need to, like, we need to go to a place of mattering. Like, it's saying that I have to be Black excellence. Excellence is a supremacist word. Because it's saying that where you are right now as just being Black, just having Black joy is not good enough. You have to be excellent at your Black joy. You have to be excellent at breathing. You have to be excellent. And what is that? What does that mean? That labor is what has created, no shade to them, I benefited from a little bit, but things like Jack and Jill created systematic systems on systems of division, oppression, and confinement. Because it says that only these folks are worthy. It's going back to that challenge and 10th notion. Only these folks will guide us to the watering hole. And imagine, and I just want us to all imagine that what if every last one of us could get us to the watering hole? What if we were to understand that abundance policy, the way to live is to understand that I am full of abundance. What if that was how we were to operate?
We would be a much happier group of people, that's for sure.
I don't know. I'm happy over here. I don't know about everybody else, but I got something over here.
I'm enjoying myself. Okay. Let me see. Okay, I want to touch on the NBT is very female-heavy society, right? It's founded by a woman.
Ashe.
Your CEO is a woman. So could you talk about the art of collaboration within that group and how that all plays along?
I mean, like, civilization will be saved by Black women. And once civilization understands how Black women will save and it will be saved by civilization for two reasons. One, because the Black woman is the foundation of the building blocks of race of a racial and a oppressed society. We oppress the most the Black woman. So to unoppress them in general, and I'm talking about Black trans women, so cis and trans. And trans are even now in another category than cis Black women, right? If we want to go into the Black womanhood, I think there are other areas inside of that even you get more layers. But if we were to liberate Black women, that means that everyone else has to get liberated. That means that we have to rise everyone else to the top. So for me, an institution around the cultural integrity and love space. Dr. T has this beautiful quote, where there is love, there is no fear. To center an institution around love and dispel the notion of fear anchors and roots a radical imagination of humanizing us. And it would be from the vantage point, and I would say only the vantage point of a Black woman, because the Black woman has actually lived an experience where they are searching and actualizing and embodying a practice from my vantage point. And I am a cis male, so there's things that I might be saying that are wrong, and I'm happy to be schooled and taught on ways in which that I can be a better partner inside of all of this. But it would only be from that vantage point that we would start to have a beautiful space in order to start to feel whole and complete. That's just that's from where my vantage point is, that like our Black bodies, our human bodies become free when we start to truly listen, lean, and activate and invest actively in Black womanhood.
Mm-hmm.
And we allow those Black women to excel to spaces that allow for because a lot, and not to say all Black women are like this, but the Black women that I'm in leadership with, these are all Black women who are recentering the indigenous, reactivating the matriarch, and allowing for everyone to be seen because of that recentering, and creating a circular action that is profoundly beautiful,
Mm-hmm.
that humbles the ground, that awakens the oasis. Does that answer your question?
Yes, it's so beautiful. I feel like I keep using the term beautiful, but I just think that the way that you choose to express things and the way you choose to just like explain and understand, it's like rooted in love, and love is a beautiful thing. So
Yes, love, 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 love.
This is making me think about how there's this video of Jason Momoa at this concert, and all he's doing is screaming love at the top of his lungs. He's like, love, 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 love. And that's how I feel right now. Okay, I have a couple final questions to round it all out.
Yeah.
So what do you envision as the future of theater, and whose work excites or motivates you at this moment?
So what I envision inside of theater is that theater is gonna have a reckoning with itself. It's gonna have to reimagine its very model and its very sense of being. Exactly same way that I was talking about, if we have not taken the time to really sit with the discomfort of this moment and really allow for the discomfort to lead us to a space of radical imagination, reconfiguration, and transformation, then we have basically wasted this time, and we haven't activated this time. So I think that theater has to think of itself as a transmedia site. What does it mean to be a transmedia cultural site that is looking at multiple different ways of investing and engaging and amplifying? I think theater has to deal with its age-old question of who am I here to serve? What am I here to serve? And how do I get out of the way of myself? And that's some of my practitioners, that's some of my peers and leaders asking myself, how do I make space? How do I make space? And am I willing? Because I ask myself this all the time. I'm actually building my position to leave. I'm building my position right now so I can leave.
Mm-hmm.
I worked so hard so that it's not for me to gain a bigger check. I work so hard so that hopefully someone is desirable. It's someone will desire this role, step into it, and take it to places I've never been able to do because I was so concerned about these other things.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the future of theater will have to deal with its own shame.
Mm-hmm.
It will have to navigate a space of recovery that is not about recovering the past, but recovering a future that it needs to lean into. And I think that the future of theater is really going to be asking ourselves is, I think for multiple years, we're going to be the creation of work is going to be about, am I running away from grief? Or am I helping my community to digest the grief that they've just gone through?
Mm-hmm.
And giving them the tools to navigate it.
Mm-hmm.
Because we are just starting to name that we are a grief-ridden society.
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that we are just naming that after close to 500,000 people have been killed by this virus, an economic situation. You know what I mean? We're just naming that, but like this grief was there before.
Mm-hmm.
And we're gonna have to have that conversation. I was on a Zoom call where someone was talking about we were being aspirational. We're like, what world, what future do we want to? Oh, come on, let's dream, let's like imagine. And she was like, I'm having a full block right now because I haven't done my job for over a year. I don't know who I am.
Mm-hmm.
I haven't been able to be I don't call myself an artist anymore because it's not about the jobs that I have to do to make money. It's like who I was stopped, haltered, cut off at the root. And now I just don't know who I am. And I said to her in that moment, it was an offering. I said, I honored her and I said, thank you for her sharing. And I ultimately just said is that as an opportunity, I would just say this. Who you were was also connected to a system that equally did not honor all that you brought to the table.
Absolutely.
Who you were, and that this moment is to address who you were and to ask yourself, who do you want to be?
Mm-hmm.
And who you want to be in this moment, if you allow yourself, if you want to, and you don't have to, you could just be on pause. That's completely fine. And I say more power to you. And I think that's beautiful. But if you want to, you also have the opportunity to understand that this body is a CEO in an industry all by itself. For the first time in I think a very long time, the individual can build industry in a quantum leap apparatus. And there are very rare moments where that gets to happen inside of our human existence. And this is one of those. You could have a entire talk show, have a full-on studio with a click of a button. You can generate worlds and create story with just your camera and then a click of a button. You can teach yourself how to edit films because YouTube has tons, and it won't get you to the place like, yes, will you become like Ava DuVernay? Maybe, maybe not. But the question is not will you become Ava DuVernay? Will you become your best you?
Mm-hmm.
Because not everyone's meant to be Ava.
Mm-hmm.
Ava has a path that she is doing. How am I being the best Jonathan? Because if I do the best Jonathan, I create again a legacy of generational shifts that allow for the future me, or the person who's inspired by me, or the person who gets my inheritance, to take a deeper, wider step than I ever could do. And if I've done that, then I've done my job on this planet. And if we all do that, we've done our job on this planet. That is all I think the universe asks and requires of us.
Absolutely. Because it is just going back to what you've been talking about this entire time. It's like, it's to serve, and how do we serve, and how do we serve ourselves, and how do we serve others? And we're not all going to be on the same level. We're not all called to serve the same action, but it doesn't mean that the effect that we have isn't as important or as necessary.
Ashe.
Okay, well, with that, what is there? What is the thing that you would like to do in life? Like, if there's something you haven't done yet, it doesn't even have to be tied to the arts. It could be literally anything. What do you want to do that you haven't yet done?
There's a part of me that wants to, even though everyone's like, you're going to hate that. There's a part of me that wants to like run a flower shop and be a florist. Everyone's like,
that's a good one.
After you've done all of this, you want to be a florist? And
well, you did reference the lotus at the beginning, so.
No. And if you go on my Instagram, like I have a lot of flower designs that I've done. Like I'm a novice Black florist who taught myself. Like I am that. And I love plants, so like there's that part. But there's a way in which flowers, they speak to me. and I speak to them, and there's an intimacy that they have that I don't get to express on a date. Like I get to have with plants that I can't find anywhere else. And there's a softness that I get to have that I can't find anywhere else. And there's something quite beautiful about a flower that just reminds me how to be gentle with life, especially a cut flower. It is my responsibility to give it its best ride to its end. It's my responsibility to make sure it has fresh water. It's my responsibility to make sure that it has the proper air or sunlight. It's my responsibility because if I do that, then it provides.
Mm-hmm.
It reminds me if I do that, it provides. It will last longer. It will give me a fragrance. It will, all the things that I want it to do, why I purchased it in the first place, happens. However, I have to do my step. That it doesn't just happen because I bought it. Mm-hmm. It happens because I'm in relationship with it. And
Absolutely.
so there's something really magical about that. And flower shops are not the easiest thing to do, especially after a pandemic and a whole new economy. However, there's something about it that I'm kind of maybe interested in doing. And then I will say something that I haven't done that I probably would love to do. And I don't know how you would do this again, how I would do this, the amount of time it would take. I think it took someone like 10 years to do all this. And not that I don't have 10 years I have 10 years to do it. But like, I think I want to travel the world. Like this, I want to go to every country.
Oh, like Catch Me If You Can.
Yes. Like I just want to go to every country and just kind of like, I want to do a road trip around America. Like I just want to like do it. I want to like kind of like really, really absorb all the spaces and the corners I haven't absorbed and really appreciate those spaces that I haven't been able to absorb, and really be informed by those spiritual spaces that I feel deeply rooted by.
Absolutely. I mean, the world is so big, but it's also so small, and we share so much space with everyone. It's like, let's learn that space. Like, let's be a part of this planet that we live on. Well, you get my stamp of approval for that. If you ever want to come to Ghana, you know who to reach out to. I'm here for you. Okay, Jonathan, unfortunately, our time is up, and that makes me so sad because I honestly feel like I could listen to you talk for the next 4 hours. I would just love to keep this conversation
if you ever
going.
Want to talk again, I'm here. I would love it. I really have enjoyed this. It's been really quite amazing. It's been a beautiful way to spend my Saturday.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Like, you have truly fulfilled me. I don't know how everyone else is feeling, but in our group chat, people were like, Jonathan, speaking truth, he's going off. So I think that you're really like, you're feeding, you're healing. I honestly think you should start a podcast or something because I'm inspired. People need to hear everything that you're saying all day, every day. If you just want to give us a little, like, where people can find you, we have it listed, but if you want to give a little shout out.
Yeah. So always, all day, I have an IG account, but I mean, if you wanna connect with me through National Black Day. I mean, that's the thing that I really, really want everyone to know. I am me. Because of my beautiful family, but also because of the investment this institution has made on my life. And so if you love what I'm standing for, what I'm about, please just connect with MBT. And that's a way to be connected with me. It has been actually really beautiful and amazing to connect with you all in this community. And I hope that this is just the beginning of multiple different ways that we can build together and hopefully imagine that new economy, that new life, that new way of being, that is holistically honoring the brilliance that is you, the brilliance that is me, and equally the brilliance of the natural sense of the world that is trying to restore itself in this midst of this pandemic.
Absolutely. Yes, I also feel like this is just the beginning somehow. So thank you so much, Jonathan. Thank you so much. I don't even know what else to say.
I don't know. Am I supposed to press in? I don't know.
No. I think Regina will do something.